paddock we're working in today is approximately 1.3 hectares. Aaron's just in the process of sorting out what pieces of timber he wants to use. Aaron's been doing this for a while now for me. He's constructed all my habitat stacks, so he's got a good idea of what pieces to choose. So he sorts them all out, has a look at what he's got, and then he'll put them in the Barford tipper and take them out to the stacks so that he can then start the construction process. I just want to show you this fungi that's growing on this piece of old ficus stem, and this is an awesome display of why we're putting this timber onto the ground in these re-veg sites. So we're ready to construct our first stack here today. So what we're doing is just scraping the top off the ground so that we get rid of that grass, and then that way we can get good contact with the first pieces of coarse woody debris that we're going to put on there. And that's probably one of the most important things to remember when we're doing this, is to get as much surface contact with the timber to the soil as possible as our first layer of timber going in. So he's scratched out the ground and he's just placing that first stump in there, and then we'll have good contact, and that's a good way for that beneficial fungi to start to grow, so we can get the moisture up out of the ground. So this piece of timber that Aaron's going to put in the middle, it's got a hollow in it, and for me that's the prize. Any hollow timber, we don't get a whole lot of that, so the benefit is putting that in the middle of the stack so that something can come in and use it. Be a good nesting place, a den for a lizard or a reptile of some sort. Typically snakes, red-bellied blacks like these hollows. So another large piece of stem timber going flat onto the ground. And that's the basis of our stack. After that, it's just using whatever pieces we've got, placing them all into interlocking positions. So from here it's just a simple process of picking up the chosen pieces of timber and stacking them all on top of each other. So it's important to remember that this timber stack that we're placing here, because 99% of it is eucalypt, so it's a hardwood, it's going to last a long time, and in this situation it's likely that it's going to last several hundred years. That's of course if it doesn't get burnt in the process, but bushfire is a natural process for a sclerophyll system in any case, so it's to be expected that it will get burnt. So when it does burn, all that potash and other minerals and byproducts of the fire are nutrients for the forest and the trees around it. So it is entirely a natural process, and from that the timber will start to build up again, and that's just a natural process that we see happen. But you also might think, are these stacks a fire hazard? Well, depends which way you want to think about it. As I just said, it's a natural process to have this much timber in a sclerophyll forest. So we're just about finished this stack, and look, they don't take long to build at all. This one, by the time we got the timber to the site, it literally only taken us 15 minutes to put it together. So if you've got the timber, you can also use other things. You can use rocks, bits of old steel if you've got it. You know, rocks and a combination of timber is good because they're both natural products. Particularly the rocks will stay there forever, and the timber just is a contrast to it. So we're just finishing the stack off by putting some smaller timber, just bits and pieces and leaves and sticks and things over the top, just to create a bit of diversity in the size of limbs. And this will cater for some of the smaller skinks that prefer and will only often perch or bask on specific size sticks. And it also gives a little bit more cover for the stack. So there you go, we're just about done. And that's the finished stack. Typically with these stacks, they seem to benefit the reptiles more than anything, and often within 24 hours you will have some reptiles in here, mainly lizards. The red belly blacks like them as well. We've had bearded dragons in there. We've had blue tongues basking on the timber in the mornings, in the morning sun. We've even had a goanna sitting on the top of one. But other animals that tend to want to make these things home are even frogs, beetles, earthworms, all sorts of small insects and arthropods. We get the antechinus, the bush rats, field mice, echidnas, and we've also captured a photo of a long-nosed bandicoot living in a large hollow log that I placed inside one of these. So we get lots of things. We get birds perching on the top of them. We capture wallabies coming up right round close to them, and the reason we know this is because we've put monitoring cameras on some of our stacks in the past. This is a habitat stack that Aaron and I built about 4 years ago now, and you can see its colour has changed dramatically from the fresh timber, so it's all grey and weathered now. And this is one of the stacks that we have had a monitoring camera on, and that we did pick up quite a bit of activity, particularly at night. And I put this one here because it's right next to this little turkey's nest, or an old dam that's spring fed. So animals need water, and I thought, well, if I put this one right close to the water, then it'll be a good spot to hopefully attract some animals. Now, I'm just going to go in here and just see what I can see as far as evidence of habitation. And I can see a hollow log in here. Not sure if you guys can see it, but there's certainly evidence right there that some critter's been carting hay in there for a nest. And if we look a little bit further down here, I can see scat from what could be a bush rat or something of that description. And then if we come back out down here, we can see that beneficial fungi. And you know, we typically want to see several or many different species of this. It's for it to be a healthy system. So there's some bracket fungi there. There's some little red fruiting bodies down at the base there. And here's what looks like remains of a cane toad flipped on its back. Something's eaten the guts of it out, and that's a very good sign. We know cane toads do come into these stacks because we photographed them, but that's a good sign to see that. So clearly, without going too far or looking too far, we can see evidence of habitation straight away. So you're seeing the benefits there. So these habitat stacks in open areas like this are placed there with the view that they're similar to stepping stones. So you can see here with probably a 2-year-old and some even fresher re-veg, there's a set of 3 stacks here that we've built, and you can see that in between these 2 in particular have been planted with lomandras and dianellas to create a low dense passage, a protective passage, so that the critters can go from stack to stack, particularly at night, to traverse what was before a very open landscape. So it's giving them those stepping stones to be able to access new areas and breed up into these new areas. So the more we put around the place, they can access areas of more established vegetation, such as what's in the background there, and this 5-year-old offset here. So that's just another little tip. If you're constructing these things, you can join them up with low dense ground cover to create protective passageways.